NZ Aerosports, Icarus Canopies, now JYRO. That's right, we've rebranded, and JYRO is our next generation. It honours our founder, as that's the name we knew him by, but JYRO also marks the start of a new chapter. And not to be biased, but it's going to be fucking epic. Long story short, we're more us than ever, so if you're new to the sport, or even a Sky God Ninja Turtle, welcome. I think our valiant leader Lucy, JYRO's daughter, says it best.
And we still got that fuck yeah attitude. Rebrand! Woo!
Rebrand woo indeed, Lucy. Anyway, head over to JYRO.com for more info and get amongst you legends.
I was 19, broke, unemployed, and sold my girlfriend's canopy for drug money. So I thought I better sew her a new one. What a sentence, and what a story. This describes the humble yet outrageous beginnings of NZ Aerosports, the home of Icarus Canopies, in the words of our founder himself. From getting a paratrooper toy from his mom, watching parachutes at the DZ as a 6-year-old, jumping off the wharf with a parachute made from bed sheets, doing his first jump at 16, sewing his first canopy on a borrowed machine at 19, and starting to sell parachutes out of a garage in 1986, Paul JYRO Martin had an undying love for the sky. Our company started with one man with the wildest of spirits and a true blue sky dream, a renegade. In the time that JYRO created and ran the Icarus Canopies brand until he passed away in 2017, he pushed everything he had to its limits. We miss him, and we always will. JYRO is the next generation of NZ Aerosports. It honors our founder, of course, because it was the name we all knew him by, but JYRO the rebrand also marks the start of a new chapter, our next jump. JYRO is the space between sound and silence, art and science, chaos and calm. JYRO is a state of epic tranquility that transcends understanding. That moment, in the door, in free fall, mid-swoop, where nothing but the present exists. A perfect balance of euphoria and thrill. JYRO captures our passion for flying and our commitment to designing break-the-fucking-rules canopies that deliver pilots pure, wild flight. Hey gang, so I got a new book out. It's called The Upside of Fear, and it's exactly what you think it's about. It's about the good side of, well, getting scared. In it, we talk not only about the science and biology behind fear, but the psychology as well. And it's not just coming from me, it's coming from some of the best in the sport. Omar Alhigelan, Jeff Provenzano, Maxine Tate, and so many more have contributed their sometimes terrifying stories to the book to help you overcome your fear. So head to the lunaticfringepodcast.com. You're going to find the link to the book there, as well as the other books. It's available in ebook, paperback, hardback, and audiobook right now.
Coming straight from the cockpit, it's another episode of Lunatic Fringe with the fucking pilot.
Ready, set, go! Back in the can for another edition of the Lunatic Fringe podcast, talking to the other side of the planet where the season's just getting started. Who the fuck are you, and what do you do?
I am Chris Stewart, and I am a test jumper, sometimes when the weather's good in New Zealand, for JYRO, formerly NZ Aerosports, and I do a few other things for them too. I'm kind of like a shitty Swiss Army knife.
A shitty. What is that one really bizarre movie, Swiss Army Man? Have you seen that?
Rings a bell. Not off the top of my head. I can't remember what it's.
It's one of the weirdest fucking movies I've ever seen. So you're not that weird.
Yeah, no, I think what I mean by that is I'm kind of. You ever heard a jack of all trade, master of none?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I did quite a bit there. So yeah.
So you've been a test pilot for like a long time now. I would think the longevity on that particular side of the sport's short, but it doesn't seem to be with you.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about that the other day. I feel like now I don't want to say it, but no, I'll say it. I feel like I'm probably one of the longest test jumpers at JYRO. which is, yeah, I don't know. Speaking of that as well, people ask me, whenever you tell, you have people who are mates who aren't skydivers and like, you're a test jumper, that's insane. And obviously they don't know that, like, we're not just starting from scratch every time. But yeah, I've never had a cutaway on a prototype.
Really?
So yeah, I mean, I've been jumping. I'm just trying to think. I think I started for the company as a contractor in 2016, 2017. So I've been going a while, yeah, like quite a few years now. But I mean, I've definitely had a couple of spicy moments. But
Yeah. I mean,
no grand cutaway that's,
I mean, yeah, as soon as you say test jumper, obviously for the majority of people, that instantly stirs up images of fucking insanity, from the word go. But still,
yeah, yeah.
after what, 8+ years test jumping, you've obviously had to have had some why the fuck am I doing this moments.
I've had a couple. They generally they stop you for the day, or you just like, because when we go out jumping, we'll take a couple of canopies with us, generally speaking, unless we've just got one thing that really needs to get quite a few jumps. And usually that's a mix. Like one of them might be something high performance, and one of them might be something a little more docile. Just depends what we're working on. So
Sure.
sometimes you'll be doing something, you're like, you know what? I think I'll go back to that 220 now and just chill for a minute. So.
Well,
Yeah.
has one of those ever caught you off guard too, though? Because I mean, from my experience, being underloaded on a big fucking canopy is 10 times scarier than being a little overloaded.
Yeah, well, I mean, the joy for us is obviously we don't work for a drop zone manager, or we're not doing tandems and huck and drogues.
Yeah.
So if we don't like the winds, we're just like, yeah, that's enough. Let's go to the pub. So we kind of pretty good on that. We definitely err on the side of caution when appropriate with the, depending on the canopy. But it's not so much the light wing loadings. Man, the big ones, like, when we're trying to figure out openings, they have the worst openings. So you'll be jumping something and it's, like a 240. So I had one earlier this year, and we do, we work our way up to the terminal openings, because you got a parachute. It's never been jumped before. Okay, so it's gone through all of Julian's, simulations or whatever, and it's like, yeah, this should fly really good, but we don't know how it will open. So we don't really know how it will fly. So then you'll work your way up. So you jump out and you're like, cool, I'll just go for a few second delay, just, open the canopy, and then you get a nice sniveler, and then you're like, cool, no, I think that's pretty good. I'll take that terminal. And you go out and, you fall for like 10, 15 seconds or whatever. And I did one this year, and I was like, yeah, this will be sweet. And I deployed, and I just had instant canopy. And I was just like, those are probably the worst ones, to be honest, because, I'm 36 now. The body is definitely like, mate, how many more do we want to do of that?
Right.
Like, I'm not sure how many more I got of those in me, but for the most part, it's not been too brutal on the body.
So actually that raises a good question. When you're test jumping, especially the newer canopies, the ones that haven't seen much airtime, are you packing them yourselves? Do you have packers coming out and doing them? Are you literally looking at a new canopy design going, fuck, I'm not really sure how this one should be packed in order to get a good opening? Like, how do you approach that?
Well, I approach them. I always say I should never teach anyone to pack, because I feel like I'm a pretty good example. And, this is what test jumping needs. We need someone who's going to treat it like it's in the real world. So I pack every parachute the same, from a Petra to a tandem. And I always say about our canopies at JYRO, I used to say this on the demo tour, because used to be, when I was doing it, I hung out with Hans. Do you know Hans, demo? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the man. Shout out to Hans. So we would set up our tents next to each other when we were, in 2018 was when I did the European demo tour, and people would be like asking for little packing tips and stuff, and Hans had many, and old Chris from New Zealand had, no mate, it's a modern parachute, we don't need any special techniques. And that's what I'd say about our parachutes. So it was like a little dig, but I just pack everything the same, so I don't change anything there. We pack ourselves, generally, because when we go out jumping, we're trying to just get maximum amount of jumps in. So we'll be like, we'll get there for load one. We usually are packed up when we get there. We'll jump on the plane, and depending on what the canopy needs. So a lot of what we're doing right now is opening testing, or just confirming the openings are consistent on a couple of different prototypes we have, so that we know they're stable. We've done all those control checks from previous jumps, so we just do hop and pops. So we go up to $5 or $6 grand depending on the canopy, and then we just get ourselves terminal, open, all going to plan, work it, and then we land and we repack, and we just try and do that all day.
Sure.
It really depends on what we're trying to get out of the canopy, but right now we're doing a lot of stuff is just basically checking openings and consistency in openings. So we don't ever use. We used to use packers way back in the day, and then I remember one day, this is years ago now, when I first started, back in the days of Chris Brook, who used to be in charge of the test jumping, and we used to just use packers and kind of be. We were living like kings back then. And then I remember at the end of one month or whatever it was, the company got a packing bill from the drop zone, and they were like, "Hey guys, so we appreciate you might need to use a packer sometimes, but not all the time." It was got this like giant packing bill, and we were like, that was when there was 3 or 4 of us jumping, so we just had like four pack jobs a load, and
Sure.
it just it added up. So I actually prefer to pack. It's funny, as I've progressed in the sport, or as I've been in the sport, I guess longer. You went through that thing of you hate learning to pack, and then you kind of come okay with it, and then you hate it again. And now I'm kind of like, it doesn't bother me. It's part of the job. A big thing for me when I'm out at the drop zone is it means I'm not in the office. So you start to appreciate sort of every aspect of the jump. And even though the pack job's not the most exciting, it is the precursor to actually doing the jump. So that part's cool.
I never really minded the packing all that much. And then after a few pretty bad experiences off the packing mat, I decided that I should pack for myself, not necessarily because I could do a better job than any of the people on the packing mat, but because if I smacked myself, I didn't have anybody I could point the finger at, right?
Yeah.
The natural tendency is you get fucking, hung out to dry on an opening, and you want to go, what the fuck did you... And then you go and do it to yourself, but it's I guess I screwed that one up a little bit. And you finally, you realize that the majority of the fucking shit that we do on our pack jobs is just a bunch of voodoo crap anyway, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I always find it funny as well when we're at the drop zone, you hear a tandem instructor come down and they go, "Oh, that was terrible. What'd you do different on that?" And the packer's like, "Obviously nothing. I packed 40 of these a day." And then they've got to do that. I love it when you hear a package so at the corner of your ears, kind of like you hear them go, "Oh, yep, I'll try that and that next time," just to keep the tandem instructor happy. It's like, off you go. Yeah. I'm going to do it exactly the same as I have for the last 1,000.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I'm victim of the same, or I should say, I'm guilty of the same thing. I had one particular week at jumping at Skydance that was just a horrible week. I want to say I had 2 cutaways in 1 week, and just banger after banger on tandems. And I finally kept giving shit to the packer because it was the same guy that was packing it every time. And I finally came in, and I'd had just the worst opening you could have that you didn't cut away. And I storm into the hangar like a real prick, ball up the fucking canopy, throw it on the mat, and go, "Put that shit in the bag just like that. It'll open better than what you just gave me." And then I thought, all right, no, fuck this. Have you ever done a jump? No, you've never done a jump. Fine. You pick a rig, you packed. I'm going to go tell the boss we're going on a skydive. And we did. And I'm thinking the entire time, this kid's going to get his head ripped off. It's just going to be, he's going to understand because he's going to feel my pain now. And it was a gorgeous opening. Like, just stellar. And it was so fucking good that halfway through the snivel, I was tempted to cut it away just so I could say, "Fuck you."
It was too good. You got to go somewhere in the middle.
Oh, I was so disappointed. I'm like, I'm going to teach this fucking kid a lesson. And it was completely the other way around. And that was when I was like, oh yeah, I was just being a prick. It's not this kid's fault.
Yeah. No, when I used to go back to the prototypes, we don't really, like, you watch some people pack and they roll the 3 cells into the center and they do this, that. And it's just kind of like the main things, like for a packing lesson now, quartering the slider and line tension, really. You don't want it to be, you give it a good flake and then, that's pretty much it. That's about the extent of what I do. And I do that with Petra, and I've jumped other brands, canopies as well. And I do it the exact same.
Sure.
I jumped velos for years. That was, what I kind of started out on. And although if anyone's got a lot of jumps on a velo, you're like, mate, they open fine until you open, jump a canopy that does open fine, and you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, the
Remember,
very
I
first
was like,
opening I ever fucking had on a velo, everybody's like, you should do a hop and pop first. Do a hey-ho, get used to flying it. So I jump out at 13,000, wait 2 or 3 seconds and pitch. And I'd been jumping a stiletto before then. And with a stiletto, your hands are on the rear risers and you're steering the opening every time.
yeah,
Nobody fucking told me don't dare do that with a velo. Just be a bag of sand on a velo. So at 12,500, I'm trying to steer the opening of a velo in very thin air, and it did not like it at all. And
yeah.
all I could think was, I'm going to chop my brand new velo at 12,500 feet on a pretty windy day. I'm going to get one jump on this canopy before it's gone.
God. Yeah. Mine were. I remember I used to have a set of risers, and they always had a brake fire. And I was just a bum skydiver, so I never did anything about it. I just accepted that, like, one in sort of 5 or 10 jumps, I'd get a brake fire. I'd just be like, yeah, oh, there it is. Reach up and grab it and go ride, and I'd be like, yeah, sweet, not too bad.
Bizarre the
like,
shit we get used to, right?
Oh, and then people were like, velos would be terrible. I was like, no, they open all good. And
Yeah.
then I think I changed to a JVX, and then I was like, oh, okay, I don't have to do this is so much easier.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that was stepping up from the old F-111 canopies to my first ZP canopy. Same thing. You're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, it's night and day, and you realize, oh, okay. So now, for those of you that haven't heard our first couple episodes, give a quick recap of how you got started in the sport and how you ended up being a test jumper for JYRO.
Okay, so I did. I guess a few people might have heard of it, but there's that skydiving school that was based. It's based in New Zealand. It's still here, but
Yep.
it was down in the South Island when I did it. So yeah, I came home from work one day, and I was just like, I was doing a building apprenticeship, and I was like, man, I don't like my boss. He just wasn't doing it. I wasn't going anywhere, and I'd been in it for 6 months, and I'd basically just getting paid apprenticeship wages for being a labourer, which it was crap. Anyway, so I just found this course online, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to be a skydiver, and I'd never done it before. But I figured, I was young, I was like, I'd make it happen. Anyway, so cut through, did the school, and we got a work placement, and I chose to go to Byron Bay because I just wanted to use it as a way to travel. And then everyone knows it's like any industry, right? So started on camera, and then wanted to travel the world. And one of the buddies here, Bart Hardy, who lives in Norway full time now with his wife, he was the drop zone manager, and I'd been seeing all these videos of people mountain flying in Norway, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. And so all about who you know, and he got me a job over there, flying camera. So I went over there and kind of never looked back. I did 8 seasons in Voss. Got some pretty cool opportunities. I got to fly on the One Cool team, so I was a part of that team for a few years while I was still there. Got to jump with quite a few, like Junior and that came and joined us. Pat K, we did a few cool years. Yeah. Anyway, so that was kind of. I was quite mad about canopy. I knew pretty early on that was probably my most enjoyable part of the jump, and I just kind of focused on that. So started competing, did the demos. Got a couple of cool opportunities. Did that swoop freestyle for a few years. Started picking up some sponsors, competing along the way and whatnot. And then I started doing some video editing. I can't really remember how I got into it. Now that I think about it, I remember I did a little bit when I was just like in high school, just mucking around with mates, making like shit videos. Got the old camcorder with the mini DV tapes.
Yeah.
And and then that's right. So I got sponsorship through JYRO, through NZ Aerosports, and then they knew that I'd done some video editing, and they were just trying to it was Shannon at the time who was doing all the video editing, I think, and they just wanted to lighten their load. So they just asked if I wanted to do any small projects. So I was just doing some of those in between my regular work, tandem work and stuff like that when I was traveling. So did a couple of videos, and then they just asked if I wanted to come hang out for a summer and do some test jumping and make a couple of videos. That was back when we released the Sapphire 3. So that was my first project with them. And then I remember having a meeting with Attila, the GM, who's also been on the show, and he kind of sat me down at the start of the summer, and he was like, "Yeah, so this is really only going to be part time, and we don't know, we don't know if we need you back or how long it's going to last." And then yeah, I remember. So it was an awesome, awesome first summer at the company. And then when I was leaving back to Norway, he sat me down again. And he's like, "So you're going to be coming back, right? We need you to come back." And then it was just, yeah, it's this funny thing at the company at JYRO. There's so many people there who just started on as part time or just started on as they just were there for a few months, and now they've been there for years.
Sure.
So I'm one of those people. But yeah, so and then just been with the company. So I started just really test jumping and doing a little bit of video editing, and then now I'm in charge of the sponsorship program and all of our athletes. So some people listening might know me as that, getting emails from me when they have questions and requests about that sort of stuff. And then, yeah, kind of like I joked about at the start, I just bit of a yes man. I just kind of do whatever they really ask me. So
Sure.
yeah.
Well, I was going to say, because every time I have to reach out to JYRO for anything in regard to the show and all that stuff, it's always you, always.
Yeah. Well, I'm probably one of the only people who answers back. So
like I honestly, I stopped reaching out to anybody else because I mean, it's too bad for you, but I know I can get a hold of you. You're too reliable.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool. No, I remember when actually, funny thing, when we were stretched real thin when I took over the sponsorship program, and one of my things was I was like, people need to get an email, like they need to get a response within 48 hours or whatever. And I really hammered that in for a while, and then it's just, it gets a little bit harder. But I think we're way better than what we used to be, which is good. So
sure.
Yeah, we were kind of in that position where to the outside world we were a big company, but we were still internally operating like a like a small home business, which was
sure
to a sort of that sort of grassroots. So yeah, I mean, a lot of changes happened since I started for sure.
Well, and it's funny being able to track the progress of the company from way back when, because like a lot of people, the first time that the company jumped into my sphere was the first time I saw an JYRO Sports "Fuck Yeah" sticker.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a second, that's not a joke. They're actually doing this. That's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And then, of course, you're like, oh my God, that's the coolest company ever. And it was marketing fucking genius back then, because especially back then, skydiving, the old guard, so to speak, was very not military, but still very professional and very, it's an RW world kind of vibe. And then this "Fuck Yeah" comes on as free flying is really exploding everywhere. And it was, oh, it's a brave new world.
Yeah. It's cool that the old "Fuck Yeah" t-shirts, you always see them floating around every now and then. They're a little bit of history. So if you've got one, hold on to it. Because after we rebranded, obviously, you're never going to please everyone, right? Some of the older guys are like, well, we don't like this. You need to change back. And it's like, it doesn't work like that, man.
Yeah.
But we get emails every now and then for people asking if we've got any of the old t-shirts and stickers and stuff like that. They're all gone. We did give them out. And yeah, so if you manage to get one and you've got one in good condition, hold on to it.
Oh, I've got one that's in horrible condition, but I'm never getting rid of it. And there's still a couple of, I have a couple of "Fuck Yeah" stickers on old logbooks, which is funny because I think the first time I put a "Fuck Yeah" sticker on my logbook, I was still flying an F-111 canopy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we still use it. We still "Fuck Yeah" is still part of the company.
Sure.
Core value sort of thing. So there are stickers, but yeah, they have those original ones. Yeah. That's pretty cool actually.
Yeah, man. So when the suggestion of test jumping first came up, was that something you had to put a lot of thought into? Because I mean, you're talking about, I mean, again, that outside perception. You weren't in the middle of it at first. Did you have visions of, fucking every jump's gnarly and shit's gonna get out of control?
Yeah, a little bit, to be honest. So when I started, I didn't hesitate. I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, sign me up, let's do it. It was 8 years ago. So yeah, I was in my 20s still, and I was unbreakable, apparently. So I didn't hesitate. And then I actually remember, I mean, everyone, when you tell someone you're test jumping, they think you're trying out Petras and layers and that. So, like super high performance parachutes, and you're always paving the way. And it's like, the reality is, that's the minority of our customer base. And you sell tandem canopies, you sell sapphires and crossfires, and JF crossfires and JFXs were, that's some of the most popular canopies we sell. So, that, I don't know, I was probably a bit naive when I started, and I was like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. And like I said before, the first project we did was the Sapphire 3 project, and I was the heaviest, and I still am. I'm the heaviest test jumper, which basically means Chris gets the big canopies. Oh. So, yeah, so we started on the Sapphire 3 project, and we were busy. It was really busy. We were jumping a lot, which was really cool. But I think for like the whole summer, I didn't jump anything smaller than a 169.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, unless I went out and jumped. But prototype wise, I was the guy getting all the big stuff. So yeah, it was fun. Like, I enjoyed it because it was a cool project to be a part of, and it was my first year or first time test jumping, and we had a good crew, and we had good laughs, and it was kind of like the glory days and
sure
and whatnot. I would imagine the boys would say that everyone's glory days, everyone's early times are the glory days, I guess, when you look back on it, in my day. But it was awesome. But I just remember I was kind of like, this isn't that cool. I'm jumping like a 189 Sapphire 3. This is ridiculous. And then you fast forward to now, and I've done a few, really high performance. Since I've started, we haven't. So when I started, the Leia and Petra were already released. So we haven't released, since I started, we haven't released like one of those sort of next step canopies. Like, it's on the to-do list, but it's not as easy as everyone thinks. Like, Leia and Petra were such big breakthroughs. It's kind of hard, to supersede that without being super sketchy. So
sure.
Yeah. So anyway, the stuff I did to start with was real big, and I was kind of getting frustrated with it. I was like, this isn't very cool. This is, I went back to Norway after my first year of test jumping, and everyone was like, you're a test jumper now. That's so cool. That's extreme. And I was like, yeah, it is. Yeah, me and my 189 Sapphire 3. Woo! Turn back up to Norway, and I jump on my like JFX or JVX or whatever it was at the time, and I'm just like, this thing's too fast. I can't handle it after a whole season of like Sapphires. But it's funny now, like, that was young me, everyone, you're young and a little bit naive. Fast forward now, I'm 36, and I'm like, I just appreciate being in the sky, Sure. Like, I was jumping last week, I was jumping a 229 prototype that we're working on, and it's just a big docile sort of entry-level canopy, and I just was like, yeah, this is fine. This is awesome. I get to, the openings are mean. I don't have to stress about my body being in pain. I'm literally just doing like checkout jumps on it and getting paid to be hanging out with my mates on the drop zone.
Sure.
The weather's beautiful, and I was just like, man, any day I'm packing it, and I'm like, I don't even care. This is fine. Like,
sure.
I'm not sat at my desk. So not that I'm confined to my desk, or anything like that, but I think I just appreciate every aspect of the sport now, and every canopy we jump. It's not always about, and especially after you have some hairy stuff happen, like you might have a jump where there's a little partial collapse, or you get a hard opening, or, right, I've kind of just got to do a gentle 90 on this because I don't really trust how it's flying. And then you're kind of like, yeah, I wouldn't mind a 229 right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, after having been test jumping for as long as you have, do you find yourself, especially as you get older, nursing injuries? Have you had anything that's like nagging? And have you got tips for people that are kind of pushing now to keep from ending up having to deal with the injury stuff?
Yeah. So when I started, definitely wasn't looking after myself. Like, there's a little bit of exercise and stuff like that, but I wasn't thinking about. You're just thinking about the jump, right? So in Norway, I broke my back years ago. We've covered that in one of the other episodes.
Yep.
So I won't get too much into it, but basically just young, thinking I'm invincible, crashed, broke my back, and that now as I get older, it's not really from test jumping, but that is an issue. Like my back's stiff in the morning, and I've got to stretch and stuff like that. So I think just in general for anyone, you should really. It's the thing with skydiving, and it's kind of cool actually. We went through this big shift in a lot of sports today. I always liken it to mountain biking, because if you think about, the downhill, like the World Series, those guys used to like party and then race the next day, and now they've all got personal trainers and a nutritionist, and it's all just, they're professional athletes.
Yeah.
And skydiving we've kind of done the same thing. You just go to a world meet, like swooping, And you'd be like, yeah, I'll stay up and have a few beers the night before and not going to get totaled. But now it's like, yep, see you guys later. It's 8:00. I'm going to bed.
Yep.
So I think skydiving in general has gone through like quite a cool shift, and it's just that health kick that's going on around the world, I guess, as well, just in general. But like, yeah, now that I'm older and I've got a few aches and pains, the broken back was skydiving induced. Obviously, that was my fault being a hero. I think it just highlights the fact that you've got one body,
Yep.
and you can wreck it, but
it's
you got to make sure you maintain it.
It's funny. I don't know about you, but when I started out, there was very little, if any, discussion on how hard on your body skydiving can be. Even just normal, run-of-the-mill, boring, jump out of the airplane, open your parachute, and land. I mean, the shit is hard. We're inducing whiplash a lot, and I never would have thought that it would have such long-lasting effects. But goddamn, man, I'm glad that I took care of myself as much as I did when I did, because I cannot imagine how much worse off I'd be if I hadn't been taking care of myself throughout the years.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's accumulation, right? Like accumulative. So you do a jump and you're like, boom, that's fine, no worries. You do, especially for those guys who are, and just so people kind of get an idea, the most jumps I do in a day now is like 8, maybe,
Yeah.
And I'm like, I finished that day and I'm like, woof, tired. But it's, and then I came from doing 20 tandems a day.
Yeah.
So, but each one of those jumps, you're kind of like, yeah, this is fine. Even when it's on a canopy that's opening perfectly, but all that stuff adds up. So, yeah, I think aside from the broken back, I'm quite fortunate. I don't really have any other issues, but it's definitely something that plays on my mind. I think now I would just suggest people, not to tell people what to do, but my advice would be, it's cool to have the beers and enjoy the party, but do all the other stuff so that you're feeling strong and good. So
Sure.
Exercise, good nutrition, get good sleep, all that shit, yada yada yada. I'm not going to give health advice, because I think you're like, for me with my back, it wasn't like, after I broke it, I recovered and it was a non-issue for so long. I didn't really notice anything. I didn't have any pain or anything like that. Now I'm getting older. Also, I think I'm blaming my mattress as well because it's shit. But get a good mattress. That's my advice. But no, I'm getting a bit stiffer. I'm getting older. But I focus now a lot on my health and my nutrition and going to the gym. I'm a big fan of the gym. I play social sports. I run and that sort of stuff. I need to stretch more. That's probably the one thing I'd say people would tell me to do.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I think, as you get older, especially in the sport, it highlights the importance of looking after yourself. And I think, like, it's not my back's, I need to work on my back now a little bit, but that was always going to happen. I think in the back of my mind, I was like, you can't break your back and it never be an issue again.
Sure.
Like, I broke my wrist playing on the jungle gym at school when I was 11. And in the winter, sometimes that feels a little stiff, and that was when I was 11, So it all stays with you. And like you say, we're just constantly putting our body into whiplash. So that your neck can only take so much before it's like, radio dickhead.
Sure.
Yeah, I've had enough. So,
sure. Well, and you've also got motivation because you're a full-time jumper in the sport and full-time in the sport with no desire to shift outside of it. And you've had a lot of changes going on personally as well. Because, by the way, congratulations! I've never gotten to say it. You got engaged.
I did, yes. I got engaged last year.
So that's super cool.
Yeah, man. The shift in life. It's funny, actually. I remember, I feel like I have the memory real clear in my mind, having a conversation with someone, because I was single for many years and just traveling the world, young guy, skydiving, swooping, just all these events, partying, it was awesome. Don't get me wrong. It was awesome. And, I remember not complaining about it at all, but it's just, I guess, the complete opposite, or the difference from then to what I'm doing now. But in a good way, like, I was doing that, and I remember, I think I was doing it for about 10 years. And I remember we were in the States, and I think I was at the US, the CP Nationals, years ago. I'm trying to think, like 16, 18, somewhere around there. Anyway, it would have been 2018. So I was there, and it was and I was going back home to New Zealand for Christmas to see family and everything. And it was the first time I'd been anywhere, and I was like, I want to leave. I want to go home. Like every other time I'd been traveling, and I was like, I can't wait for the next place. I don't want to go back home ever. That never changes. Why would I want to go back? And it was the first time where I kind of had this thought where I was like, I think I'm done here. I think I want to go back home to New Zealand. I'm done with it. Like we had done that. We were there, and we had done. We're in Florida, Sebastian, and we'd done an FLCPA, the USPA Nationals, and then we were doing the Tavir competition, the two-way comp. So it was a long time to be there, a long time to. It was a lot of competition to do in a short time, I guess.
Sure.
And I just remember sitting there, and I was like, I just want to go home. And it was a funny thought, because I just was like, this is not how you think. You're the young. You want to travel. You don't want to stop.
Right.
Routine is for fools. And anyway, so I guess from where I was to where I am now, I remember thinking, oh, that's never going to be for me. And now I think about it, and I'm like, oh God, I don't want to do that again. Like,
right.
It was awesome. I don't want to live out of bags. I like coming home, and Shai, my fiance, and I, we've got our home in New Zealand here in Auckland, and we have our routine. We get up, we go to the gym, we cook dinner together in the evening. You sit at the table and you talk about how your day was, and it just sounds. There's gonna be people listening going like, "No, it sounds horrible." But man, everyone for the most part, you're gonna hit an age where you're like,
"Oh yeah,
that sounds amazing."
Oh, dude, great. I have more years in that mentality now than I did. Yep. So I look back now, and it's a distant memory. And all I think when I was going hard, doing fucking 25 tandems a day in Cross Keys, and then partying all weekend and all that stuff, I look back and go, how the fuck did I do that?
Yeah.
I don't even know how that's possible that I managed to do that. So I look back at it fondly, but I also look back at it and vividly picture another guy, because I'm a completely different human being than I was.
Yeah. I think I sometimes wonder that if you were now your age you are now, and you're around the bonfire at the drop zone having a beer, and your younger self was there, would you just be like, dude, just go away? I don't want to hang out with you.
Oh, dude, I'd punch him right in the fucking face.
I don't even like me.
There's no way. Well, I'm lucky too that I came up at a time when not everything was being filmed. It wasn't fucking GoPros with massive SD cards all over the place. So everything wasn't on film. So a lot of the stupid shit that I did is just in my head. And even the stuff that's in my head, I wince and go, oh my God, I can't believe that was just me back then. No.
Yeah, but I mean, it's part of it, right? Like you keep evolving and changing and whatnot. But I mean, I really appreciate where I'm at now. Like we still go away. Like this year was a really good year. We had a few trips for like I had some skydiving trips, and I was in South Africa for the World Meet, which was awesome. I got to go catch up with all my friends and kind of step back into the bubble full time for
out at Billy Sharman's place. Yeah,
Skydive Pretoria. Yeah, nice. Awesome. Shout out Billy. Awesome seeing him. He's a good mate. We've known each other for years through coming to Dubai and from coming to Norway and stuff. So love Billy. A lot of time for him. And cool drop zone, super cool drop zone. But like I was out of the bubble. I was in my routine in New Zealand doing my thing, and then it was like, cool, we're going to the World Meet. Fly over there, jump back in the bubble. Enjoy hanging out with people, having a couple of too many beers every now and then doing the competition. I was like, this is awesome. And then I was like, cool. We went on safari afterwards, which is funny now, because last time I was in South Africa, I went there, competed, and just left. And I was like, I got to go to the next thing. And now I was like, I said to Shai, when I sort of said I would like to go, you run things by your partner, so because you're a team, and so ran it by her, and she's like, let's go on safari, and I was like, let's make that the reason, like that's the catalyst, that's why we're going, right? So we ended up. We kind of planned, like I was like, cool, the competition's planned. I don't really need to do anything for that. So we just spent most of the time planning the safari. So, nice. And that was awesome. But no, it was cool. We went there, jumped in the bubble, loved it, hung out with everyone, caught up, did the safari, amazing, beautiful country. And then we were like, cool, back home. Can't wait. It was nice. So
It's kind of funny, right? When you're doing the traveling from drop zone to drop zone and country to country, but you're just going to another drop zone, it's a bit like my mentality in regard to landing in an airport in a foreign country for a change of flight. It doesn't count. Like I've
Yeah,
been to the Singapore airport, but I've never been to Singapore. So on my list of countries visited, that doesn't go on there because I never left the airport. It's
yeah,
kind of the same when all you do is go to a country, go straight to a drop zone with the same amazing people, jump, drink, and party, and then get back on a fucking plane and leave. You didn't really
yeah,
go there. You just went to another fucking drop zone.
yeah. Pretty much. And
Not that there's anything
yeah,
wrong with that, but it's you're not
no,
really seeing the place.
no, for sure. I'm definitely not judging because people still do that, and it's like, yeah, you're chasing that dream or whatever it is. You're on that adventure,
Sure.
and I did it. No, but it's yeah, I agree 100%. You're like, if I say all the countries I've been to, I'm like, yeah, probably slash off a few of those ones because your
Oh
friends are
yeah.
like, oh, you were there. Did you go do this? And you're like, no. I
Yeah.
just sort of really hung out at the bar at the drop zone or I was in the plane. That's
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. Well, that's the cool thing about seeing the rise of a lot of these destination boogies that like Rich
Mm.
Grimm has done, and now Billy's done a couple. He's got another one coming up where skydiving is part of it, but it's only a part of it. Like you go there
Yeah,
because you're going to skydive, you're going to go on safari, you're going to go do this, you're going to go do that. With Rich Grimm, you're going to jump the blue hole and do all these other things, but he's got all this other amazing shit planned. So as skydivers, we know it's all weather dependent and aircraft dependent. And you go to a place like that, and if everything shits the bed in regard to the drop zone, you're still in this amazing place where you get to
yeah.
go have an incredible fun with those same people. So I love seeing the rise of that type of event that is obviously skydiving motivated, but that's not the only thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's awesome. And I think you can go to see that shift just through because if quite a few of them are popping up and they're not cheap, but they obviously, people love that. You get to go and jump in this stunning place, but then you get to go and actually enjoy the stunning place as well. So
Absolutely.
they're cool. They're cool for sure. We got a couple of athletes who work on organising similar things. There was a guy who just took his Adam Abitbul, took a big group all the way around Aussie or the east coast of Aussie. And they would like in the wet Sundays and all that sort of stuff. And they planned all these different stops. So yeah, I think it's like, you're skydiving travel agent, right?
Sure.
But it's nice because you want to go. It's probably the one thing, it's not a regret, but that I just had to take more advantage of. Like you go to these, and a lot of the time you get to go to these countries that you otherwise never would have gone to. So
Sure.
big thing for me was always wanting to enjoy the culture.
Oh
And
yeah. Now,
the drop zone culture is more or less the same everywhere around the world. So you're not really experiencing any culture if you never leave the drop zone.
no, it's the same culture with different accents. That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
Now,
That's
is
right.
is your fiance a jumper or no?
She is, so that's how we met. She hasn't jumped. So we had the rebrand last year in May, and she was at the JYRO boogie, which was kind of like the launch party,
Yep.
and that was the last time she's jumped. But she keeps saying she's got to get her gear packed up. But yeah, she keeps saying she's going to do it. So
It's
see.
kind of
We'll
nice
see how
though
she
when your partner is either a jumper on a more casual basis or not a jumper because they're not motivated by the sport. So when you do travel, taking them along motivates you to do a lot of those other things as well.
For sure, yeah. And if you plan to do a trip just to somewhere, you don't have to have that discussion. Oh, should we throw the rigs in? Because I don't want to.
Right.
Like I really appreciate that was one of the other things as well when you stop traveling for skydiving or you start basing yourself. So now we go on holidays, and it's just when you used to book a flight and you'd be like, oh, I get 123 kg back. That's not enough. And now you're like, hey, I've got 10 kg spare. Do you want to throw anything in my bag?
Yep.
Because you don't have a rig and you're not traveling with all that gear. So
Yep.
just it's such a nice feeling not having all that stuff with you. Especially
and the stress of traveling with all your equipment and do I put my baby in the belly of the plane, or do I try and take it carry on? Do I do this? Do I do that? It's so nice to just put that shit out of your head.
Yeah, for sure. No, so we met skydiving. She actually did the course. She came back and to New Zealand in 2020 because of COVID. She was going through Aussie, and because so Kiwis can work in Australia, there's not an issue there. But because she didn't have a contract in place or anything like that, she, effectively was a tourist. So they sent her back here, which worked out pretty well for me because I got to meet her, obviously.
Nice.
So yeah, so she did the course. But the first time I met her, she came into the factory for a tour. So what they do with the school is they'll all come into the factory for a tour to see, where parachutes are made, yada, yada, yada. And she came on the tour and then introduced each other, like ourselves, and said hi, and then saw her at the drop zone a couple of times, and then, as the kids say, slipped into her DMs and asked her out, and then, the rest is history.
I
God,
love
I'm old saying that shit.
That's going to be an entire generation story of how I met your mother.
Yeah, slipped into her DMs.
Yeah.
Slipped into your dad's DMs.
So now you've had a lot going on this year. JYRO had the big rebrand. What's been going on since then? I haven't really talked to you.
Yeah, man, we haven't talked for a while. It's been almost a year. Busy. R&D, like the R&D department has picked up, which is cool. We've got a few things happening. I mean, we released. I feel like you would have seen it. We released the Lazy Lover turned Element turned Air. We had to do a couple of renames. Fuck that one up a little bit. But yeah, so that's a new student canopy, which is a fun project. But like, it was a nice chill project. That was relatively quick. What we've got the ever. I can say it too because everyone knows about it. It's the bloody Anna. It's just like the never-ending R&D project. But it's, I feel like I said this last year, but it's getting there. It's almost there. It is almost there. It is actually almost there now. So that'll be out sometime next year. I'm not really 100% sure of the release date because we have quite a few things going on.
What type of canopy is the Anna going to be? Is this going to be a light your hair on fire?
Just like get your hair smoking, maybe. It's situated between the JFX2 and the layer. Just to kind of help bridge that gap, because quite a few people can make that transition, but some people can't. Also, something that's just a little bit more of a sort of workhorse, I guess. A little less rolly, a little less sensitive in the harness and whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, we've got a few prototypes out there being tested by some of our athletes and some of our friends and whatnot, and it's pretty good. It's just, I don't know, Anna has just dragged on for a long time. It's about 7 years since the first prototype was made, which is ridiculous. Yeah. But obviously COVID put a big break on that, and that's kind of lost it. Really, in terms of R&D momentum, it probably cost us like 3 years,
Sure.
COVID, just because everything came to a grinding halt, and it was about a year and a half, 2 years of dealing with COVID and the fallout. But then the fallout of that was obviously every business stopped making money, or their profits cut. So we had to kind of build our way back into, what's most important. And that wasn't at the top at the time.
Sure.
But Anna's been pretty cool learning experience in terms of stuff we've learned on Anna that we can, how to different ways to tweak openings and change the way the flight characteristics and stuff like that. So it's all good stuff, because it'll help us on things like the next layer or the next Petra or whatever comes next for those. Sure. So Anna's on the roll. We've got a couple of other intermediate things happening. I won't say what they are. Yeah, probably not.
Well, you're actually,
I don't want to give myself in trouble.
Fair enough. Now you're the perfect guy to ask this next question. So I've been out for about 2 years because of my neck surgeries that I've had, and this upcoming season I'm going to be looking to get back in the air. But I'm adjusting the canopies I've been flying. I've been flying, double-digit canopies for a long time now, and it's time to step back up a bit. It's time for me to start upsizing a little bit, but I obviously enjoy the performance. It's very difficult to go from a high-performance canopy the other direction without feeling like you're losing some of the pleasure in flying. So for somebody like me that still wants to have a little bit of fun on the canopy, but needs it to be super consistent on openings and a pretty easy flight, what would you recommend for somebody like me?
Probably like you're an experienced skydiver. I mean, if you wanted to stay cross-braced, the JFX2 because they open super nice. They're consistent. You still got a little bit of performance, but you can do just a 90 in on that if you need to.
Sure.
And it's still fine, plenty of power. But then if you wanted to go something maybe to say opens a little bit softer and a little bit more of a dial back, Crossfire 3. For sure.
Now, what's for somebody like me? I'm out the door in pound. Well, in kg, I'm out the door at probably, I don't know, 100 kg. What size am I looking at?
So I think we can load our recommended wing loading on the Crossfires up to 2. So, I mean, I don't even know. Let's see. Do some math. What's your wing loading? I gotta do some.
I'm making you do math.
Yeah. Simple math. It's all good. So you go like 2. So, I mean, depends how small you want to go. You go like a 109. That pretty much puts you on a 2. And the Crossfire flies super nice at a wing loading of 2. So 109, 119 if you wanted to take it easy. But I mean, you're an experienced skydiver, so it wouldn't be like a big shock. But it's a fun canopy,
Sure.
It's a fun canopy to fly. It opens really nice and soft.
Nice.
It's good for your neck.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Well, and for a lot of jumpers out there, there's a lot of people that are at my level or at my point in the sport where they realize nobody's gonna leave the hangar to come watch me fucking swoop. Like that ship sailed a long goddamn time ago. And I'm at that point where when I have a good swoop, something in the back of my mind is going, that was probably fucking too close.
Yeah.
So something along those lines that's still fun, but I can come in docile and just take it back a notch or two for these old bones is definitely what I'm looking for. Because obviously, if you want to go through the roof, you're going to be on a layer of Petra. But those days are gone for me.
Yeah. No, I mean, you'd have Crossfire would be good. It definitely would be erring very much more on the docile side for you, but you can still get quite a lot out of a Crossfire 3. I actually, when I was doing the demo tour, so this is, I mean, I was loading it higher than the recommended wing loading, but I just hooked up we had a Crossfire 99, so not many people really jumped it. So I just put that in my rig. So I had a Slayer 66 as well at the time, which was like, had a top attachment. It was awesome. I love that kind of brilliant. Kind of wish I never sold it now, but anyway, it's done. So I had that canopy, and it was awesome. But I mean, a lot of the people I was jumping with, we were breaking. Like you were either in a big group, so you were opening a little bit lower than normal, or I would always open really high anyway, just so I'd kind of get that maximum time on the canopy. And I just kind of was like, yeah, kind of don't really want to stress on these jumps. So I just slung in the Crossfire 399, and it was awesome. Sure. Like with the loading I had on it, it still opened really good. With the loading I had on it, I think I was still doing 630s and sort of crushing it towards the ground. But it's funny actually that you talk about like how you say I'm not going to do the best swoop, or people aren't going to come out of the hangar. But like I think now one of the most important things to remember is like, well, for me anyway, was like I did all that stuff and there was always jumps that you did for other people. And now I was like, I don't really care who watches me swoop. Like I'll swoop on the drop zone with no one there. Sure. Like if there's 0 people watching, that's perfect. Who cares? I don't care how many people are watching. But don't get me wrong, it's fun, like, doing a big event and stuff like that. But yeah, I did a canopy course for the guys out at Skydive Auckland. And I was like, I was saying to them, like, it doesn't really matter if you have a bad landing, like, as long as it's safe. So, like, you do a high landing, and people are, you feel like that was lame. And I was in this classroom with them, and I said, who had an awesome landing, like, last week? Like, a real banger, absolutely stunning. And, a couple people put their hands up, and I was like, right, who of you remembers that landing? And no one. They're like, no one remembers that landing. I'm like, no one's going to remember your landings, Like you could do the best land, you could do the best swoop in the world, to the best of your knowledge, and just be like, that was sick. Like a day later, 3 days later, no one's going to remember.
Well, let's face it, the only ones that most people remember usually end in a fucking ambulance ride.
Those ones, or even the like if you think about the world meet, CP. I mean, the canopy pilots. They're just like, this is the most important thing in the world. Right. You go into a regular drop zone, you're like, oh, it's just the world meet in South Africa. They're like, what is that? What does that mean? What do you mean by that?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Now, what are your thoughts of? I was going to say, speaking of all this, what are your thoughts of the popularity in using canopies like the Leia and the Petra as daily workhorses? Because that took getting used to for me, because the last few years flying in Dubai, it was, I mean, every day all the camera flyers are coming in on Leias and Petras, just going like a bat out of hell, doing 10 jumps a day on these things in pretty busy air traffic. And I have mixed feelings about that personally. But what do you think? Because I mean, you're on a different side of the sport than I am.
Yeah, I think given for the right people at the right drop zone, like I think it's fine. I think it's safe, to be honest. I think as long as the pilot is up to the standard of for that canopy, I don't really see an issue with it. It's funny because when we started, even myself, and you're obviously jumping much longer than me, but we people downsize and progress so much quicker now, and it's not because we're doing things like really unsafe or anything like that. It's just because the knowledge within the sport and on the canopies and stuff like that is so much greater. So we can educate people way quicker. So to me, because I kind of was in the sport when it became like it was normal. So for me, it's quite normal.
Sure.
I think with the right pilot, it can be done safely. I mean, at the end of the day, people are going to find a way to fuck up, for lack of a better term. So whether you're on a Crossfire 3 or a Sabre or a Petra or a Leia or, Valkyrie or Fluid Wings or whatever other manufacturers out there that I plugged. There's multiple choices of canopies. Just on a side note there, like we want everyone to jump gyro, but we also want everyone to fly safely and, have the canopy that's right. If that means it's another manufacturer, then that's for you. Go for it.
Sure.
I think I think it can be done safely. I think it's done safely all over the world.
Sure.
And I think, it just comes down to the pilot, like as long as the right pilot, it's appropriate, then That's not to say there's different drop zones where there's a few people hissing around on, small canopies and it's like, man, this place is the West. This is crazy.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's a different world, especially for somebody like me, because I was never a working skydiver when the traffic pattern included a canopy that was 1,000 feet above you, right? But now, that's fucking fair game. Like you can have a canopy 750 feet above you and you're halfway through his setup, so it's a whole different world.
Yeah, for sure. But that is when that was like, so when I was a much younger man skydiving and I was swooping and there was someone low on the pad and I'd be like, get out of my way. And he's, you're ruining my swoop. And now it's like, it doesn't bother me because I'm just like, whatever, you abort your landing.
Sure.
Like you've still got to follow the rules. If you're doing it, 1080 from 2,000 feet, there's always going to be someone in your way. So you've got to basically acknowledge that you probably can't do your turn all the time. But actually, the one thing that, and this is from a manufacturing point of view now, talking about these smaller canopies, is I don't really think about, I do think about, people's safety and how they fly them. But for this, I kind of, you're just assuming, right, the right people for the canopy, they know how to fly them. So what goes through my mind now is like structural integrity of the canopy, how much weight can the lines take, and how many G-force is something going to break. So I think about it from like a manufacturing point of view now.
Sure.
So not so much the layers, because we put 400s on those and stuff like that, but just learning more with there's a few instances this year where people had lines breaking and on certain canopies.
Sure.
Not our canopies, but just another manufacturer. And it just really highlighted in the industry, like, do we really know that much about how much tension's under these lines when people are turning? And now one of the ones that's sort of kind of stands out in my mind is like more people are starting to jump Petra as, it's when we say more, it's not like you're on a drop zone, everyone's on a Petra. It's not how it is. It's still very much the minority. And the people who are using them for the everyday work canopies, it's the minority of the minority. But there's still people doing it.
Yep.
There's people jumping, tiny Petras and they're doing camera on them and they're jumping them on their mutes and they're putting it through all this. And I'm just kind of like, one, you're going to rag your canopy out quick. But if you've got the money to, for sure. But two, like the the constant wear on the lines and stuff like that. That's never really what the canopy was designed for. Not that
Sure.
it can't do it, but probably more so we don't know how long it can do it for in terms of, what are you going to do with your lines? So, you got people jumping sub 60s. A couple of guys I know, and I'm just like, that's fucking small canopy for work, man.
Yep.
And don't like that. Some of the best pilots in the world. So they're good and all that. And it's not like a safety concern in terms of their skill level.
Sure.
But I'm just like, I mean, you could be the best pilot in the world. Doesn't mean you can stop your lines from snapping.
Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a big kid sport, and especially from a manufacturing side, you kind of have to, okay, you made this baby, but now you've sent it out in the world to do its own thing. Because if you sit and twist your hair, really worrying about who's going to frap themselves in because they're not using the canopy the way it was designed, you'll never get any fucking sleep. I remember when I had Bill Booth on. I asked him something along the lines of, when there are fatalities on your equipment, is that something that hits you particularly hard? And he was pretty upfront about it. He's all, well, clearly you think about it and you want to make sure that it's not a manufacturing thing that makes that happen. But at the end of the day, you've handed that equipment off to someone who's supposed to know how to use it. And if they don't do it right, you kind of just got to let it roll off of your back. I mean, my Lord, if every skydiving fatality manufacturers had to, fret over, holy shit, no way.
Oh man, yeah, for sure. Because it happens. People die, sadly on your product, or there's a serious injury or something like that. And you want to make sure the canopy, there's nothing wrong with the canopy, and you're like, and that sort of stuff. Ours is an interesting one because, we're selling the engine that can kill people, not just the chassis, so to speak. So we have discussions about this, and there's some people like, oh, you guys think you should do more to control, how they get their hands on the canopy. And it's like, well, we've got our when you get a layer of petrol, you need a reference, and we need to know them. They need to be a canopy coach. You need to prove your experience and this, that, and whatever. But at the end of the day, you could lie about all of that stuff. You could probably get someone dodgy who can be a reference to give a reference, and we can only do so many checks. So
well, I mean, there's only
the second-hand market as well. There was
exactly that's what I was going to say.
Someone was like, well, you sell them the Petra, and then what happens when they want to sell it? I'm like, they sell it. But they're like, do you control any of that? It's like, no. I mean, what are we going to do? We can't police every second-hand canopy. That's mental. So this is where you've got to trust the people who are selling the canopies are doing it, properly.
Sure.
Like I remember when I've sold Petras in the past. Now it's a bit easier. I just sell them to people I know.
Sure.
My canopies when I get rid of them. But I've sold one in the past, and I actually asked the dude. I was like, yeah, man, I don't really know you. Do you have like someone in? I think it was in the UK at the time. Might have been Malaya actually. And he gave me a buddy of mine as his reference, and I was like, sweet, yeah, cool, no worries. Canopy's all yours. So you got to trust that people are going to do their due diligence as well, because. I mean, you've got to. We do, but obviously people don't.
Well,
you got cowboys
everywhere. Fuck, man. At the end of the day, if somebody wants a canopy bad enough, they're going to get one. It's just how it is. And I've had a couple of prominent base jumpers in the sport or on the show that have talked about seeing that guy up on top, just the one that absolutely should not be trying any of this shit. And they'll go over and say, hey, maybe you might want to rethink this. But at the end of the day, when he jumps off the fucking cliff and dies, it's on him, so, you can only do so much. Now,
people are going to find a way.
Sadly. Of course. Now, as we get towards the end, is there any big stuff coming out with JYRO that you can talk about, or just stuff we should wring our hands over and be waiting for?
I mean, we're working on a couple of things now. The Annas should be out sometime next year. God, imagine if we're doing this again in another year. And I feel like I said this last year,
right?
And I am doing it now. But yeah, if I catch up in another year and we're like, the Annas should be coming out sometime in 2026.
I'll just copy and paste this directly into that podcast.
No, we've got that. We're working on a couple of beginner intermediate stuff, like I think I can say it, like a low bulk canopy, basically, just something, because there's definitely a need for that. So we understand that people rig and gear are expensive. So if you can get something that can take a few more sizes and downsizes,
Yep.
For sure it's going to save people money. We got that. Well, not canopy wise, but we got the PIA. So we did the PIA in Reno, the symposium. And because it was before we were rebranding, it was like 2 months before or something like that. So we just had this real sad little booth with a couch.
Right.
And that was it. So we're going full power this year. We're going to be in Reno. So if anyone's about there, come say hi. We'll be over there. I think we're booking quite a lot of space and going to have a nice big setup. So
Nice.
That'll be cool. There's some other things on the list in terms of R&D, but I don't, it's better not to say them just in case something doesn't happen with them.
I'll get Attila back on the show and get him to spill the beans. Then it's his fault.
Yeah, because if he says it, he can tell himself off. So
exactly. Now, last question is when is the wedding?
Oh, the wedding is in May 22nd.
Fucking
in Fiji.
In Fiji, nice.
Yeah,
do you know where in Fiji is it going to be?
It's on the main islands, down. Yeah, so because
like the Coral Coast.
Nice. Down the bottom. So, I mean, one of the things when you get married, right, you've got to invite a bunch of people, but you kind of hope some of them don't come. But we did it there. Everyone we've invited, we've got family and a lot of friends and stuff like that. But
nice.
Kind of prices a few people out, so we thought, we'll just keep it on there. But coming from New Zealand, it's not too bad.
Sure.
You get flights pretty cheap, so it's actually pretty close to us here. It's only 3.5 hours.
Oh, I loved Fiji.
But really looking forward to that. Yeah,
it's such a spectacular place, man. I mean, all of it, and for me too, being lucky enough to go there as a skydiver, jumping over the Sofitel right there on the main island, fucking 2 miles away from the airport. It was pretty spectacular.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I won't be taking gear with me. I'm not going to be jumping.
Yeah,
I'm not too stressed.
Don't.
Yeah. That's not something I want to do. I don't want to be like. I think there would be an option to do swoop onto the beach and land in at our wedding. And in fact, this is probably the only time I've said it out loud, and that's really the only time it's crossed my mind as something I don't want to do.
Yeah. Good man. So as we finish up, give everybody contact information. How do they find JYRO? How do they talk to people about canopies? How do they track you down? What's all the social media shit?
So you follow us on Instagram as @FlyJYRO. And then you've got JYRO on Facebook and all that sort of jazz. JYRO.com, just a real simple website. People don't know how to spell JYRO. It's JYRO.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the sandwich, the gyro, or whatever it is.
Well, I suppose
Greek
they could just listen to either the beginning or the end credits of this fucking show if they really.
Well, hopefully they did listen to the beginning.
Yeah.
And then if you've got any questions, you can jump over to the website. Most information's there. And then we've got like a chat function on the website. And then also you can just email us sales@JYRO.com if you've got any questions about products. And then if you want to get in touch with me, just email sales and they'll pass it on to me if it needs to be passed on to me.
Yeah, perfect.
I just get some random emails now where it's just like, hey, so-and-so gave me your email. I'm like, I don't know who that is. I don't know where that came from.
So through sales. Well, Chris, as always, fucking fantastic to catch up with you. The next time we talk, you're going to be a married man and hopefully telling us about some great new canopies that come out, or you'll be telling me that Deanna will be next year.
Next year, yeah. Let's hope it's not that one. But appreciate it, man. Awesome. Always a pleasure.
All right, take care, brother.
Cheers, bro.
Well, there you have it. Another episode of the Lunatic Fringe podcast brought to you as always by, well, wait, not as always, actually. Brought to you now by JYRO. Formerly known as NZ Sports, you'll head to JYRO.com for their next level line of canopies. By Pussfoot, the Extreme Sports Collective. Head over to pussfoot.com to check it out. By Summit Parachute Systems. Check out summitparachutesystems.com to talk to Jarrett Martin and the gang about kick-ass pilot rigs, rigging courses, and more. By Flyaway Indoor Skydiving. Go to flyawaytn.com and check out all the cutting-edge stuff to come. By Pure Spectrum CBD. Head to purespectrumcbd.com to check out their wide range of CBD products. And as for us, head to the lunaticfringepodcast.com to listen to any of the hundreds of episodes currently available, hit the link for our YouTube channel, pick up your copy of the Lunatic Fringe book or The Accidental Stripper, and get a sneak peek at upcoming guests. Once again, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.